Good afternoon from San Francisco and welcome to Sailing Illustrated, our show number 654 for Tuesday. Strange day. I had trouble, Julie, getting ready for this show given what's going on in the Middle East.
I did too.
I stayed up till, I don't know, last night watching news coming out of Israel and the Gaza Strip and so on. But we're going to talk just briefly about that. How can you start a show that on any topic, sailing or otherwise, without talking a little bit about it? My co-host, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, the esteemed Julia Vedekint, the celebrated Julia Vedekint, the most popular person on this show, is with us again today. We are live. Why do you laugh?
Oh, because it's
got to laugh about something.
Yes.
At least your stock portfolio is up today. Mine is. Market's up the last 2 days. Strange. Studio B, the Beach Street Yacht Club, as usual. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Delighted to have you here. We have a special guest standing by in Miami. We'll get to him in a minute. You can wave to us if you want, Fernando. It's Fernando Happy Alegre, esteemed coach, Optimist and otherwise, standing by in Miami, and we'll get to him in a moment. Delighted to have him with us. A new friend. Just met him face-to-face in the Tech Check for the first time. Welcome, everybody, to our show for Tuesday, the 10th of October. I'm going to go to the top of the comments here. Ed Worley saying hi. Gordon Smith from Denmark. Ed down in SoCal. Joe Holtzman from Estes Park, Colorado. John Emmett in windy Weymouth. Nice report from John again today, as usual. And then another special report with a cool lady from PNG. Julie, you know where PNG is?
Yeah.
The Olympic code?
Yeah. Papua New Guinea.
Well done. And she didn't see that in, you didn't see that in the Tech Check. I didn't run that.
No.
It's cloudy across the bay in Sausalito. A little cloudy here too, David James, in the marina here in San Francisco.
Little cool.
And cool, thank goodness. It was so bloody hot here last Friday. Did you survive the weekend with the Blue Angels?
They don't bother me as much as they bother you.
Well, they do me. I say it's like being in Las Fallas in Valencia. you do it once or twice, then you decide to get out of town. Get out of town, get out of Dodge. Did you survive yesterday? Did you celebrate Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day?
Always Columbus because of Columbus Line.
Oh, because your late great husband.
Yes.
And in fact, out here, if I can look out, you can't really see it, but out here we have a Columbus Lines life ring from one of your late husband's ships out here on the back deck here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. But as usual, I digress. Bob Walker checking in on Donna Walker's YouTube channel. Hello, Bob. Thierry de Jong down in SoCal. Jody Shields up early in Sydney where it's 07:04. Hello, everyone. And the only question I have today is why? Good question, Jody. I don't know why. Follow the money is my answer. Having talked to Julie Ahrens earlier about some, she is a Jewish American who's really, like we all are, very concerned about this, as are Palestinian Americans. I mean, it's just awful. Replying to Gordon Smith, did you see the article about Queen Margrethe in the New York Times today? So, Gordon, I don't know. Was there a nice article apparently in the Times, David James says, about your queen, even though Gordon's a Brit? I hope it was at least polite. She's a heavy smoker, isn't she, David and Gordon? Why are we talking about smoking and the Queen of Denmark? Hi from Miami. Fritz Mueller's down there next to our guest, who is live via Skype from Miami. There's Josh Tozo saying howdy from Bristol, Rhode Island. From Annapolis, come Thursday for the boat show, the famously good In the Water Boat Show in Annapolis, Maryland, every year. It used to be Columbus Day weekend. That's a little later this year. Pedro, foiling sailor in Sydney, just woke up. Good morning to you, Peter, on your Wednesday morning. Brian Greenberg, Scituate, Mass. That's a new name. Hi, Brian. Welcome. PNG, Papua New Guinea. I lived there I didn't know that, Tier, for 4.5 years. Great yacht club. Did you see that, Julia?
Yes, I've even been there.
You have. Well, you've been everywhere.
Just yacht clubs.
She does indeed smoke like a chimney, but we overlook it, Gordon Smith said. Just back from dropping my rig with a gin pole, old school. That is Steve Atkins. Hello, Fozy. It's that time of the year when people on the East Coast, northeast of this country, are dropping their rigs and getting ready for winter, as is John Emmett in his report today. Hugo Vestberg in Sweden. We're going to celebrate your fellow Swede for having won the Bermuda Gold Cup. And there's Melissa Hackle checking in from Pensacola, Florida. Delighted to have you all joining us. I have this photo. I'll ask Fernando, ask Happy in a minute if he knows where that photo was taken. It's coming up this summer at a place I have sailed a lot. Clark Chapin has sailed a lot, and the Optimist North Americans are there later, next year, I should say, in 2024. There is Daniel BC. I don't know what BC stands for, checking in from Peru, from your home country. Must be a friend of yours, presumably. Happy?
Mm-hmm.
So nice to have you with us, Daniel, as well. Let's get into this. We can't start this show without mentioning, since our last show on Friday, what has overtaken the world. And this was the New Zealand Herald on the 9th of October. We all woke up to this Saturday morning, including our long sleeping president, Joe Biden, who slept through apparently this all on. It started, I mean, it's unbelievable. It started Friday night, Washington time. And he just, no one woke him up, and he woke up and started to go at it at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. And I was awake before that here on the West Coast. But sad state of affairs, needless to say, as Israel has declared war on Hamas and the other groups. And this was the headline in the New Zealand Herald on the 9th, which was Monday morning in New Zealand. This is the Financial Times in London today, with the headline, Israel enforces complete siege. Those poor people in Gaza, but you can't blame Israel, I don't, for wanting to respond, at least in kind. 300,000 reservists mobilized as Hamas threatens the lives of Israeli hostages, the FT reports. And Netanyahu, as you've seen, the PM of Israel pledges to hurt militant groups and change the Middle East.
Good luck. Oh,
Julie, I was over at the yacht club last night for Monday Night Football, went over and had a bite to eat. And our good friend Rod Cox, who's an Israeli, has been called back to serve in the military in Israel. So he's gone. We're going to think about him and others. Gary Cohen and a few
Gary
others.
Cohen.
Gary Cohen, as you
Yes.
know. Then came the San Francisco Chronicle here in the communist country and county and city of San Francisco. Okay, the lead headline, above the fold, hostages threatened as Israel ups strikes. Netanyahu's comment, we've only started striking Hamas in the wake of the attack, but is there a photo? No. You see what the photo is there above the fold in this morning's Chronicle, Julie? You've seen You've seen your paper.
Yep.
That's the Chronicle today, the comical, as some people call it. San Francisco restaurants are tired of being tagged. That was the big news in the Chronicle today. Bloody hell. But, the other side of this is the New York Post running this photo, AFP, the French press agency, via Getty Images. Palestinians evacuate following an Israeli airstrike on the Susi Mosque. I guess Susi, is that the right way to pronounce it? In Gaza City Monday. So this is from the New York Post today. All I can say, having been involved tangentially in the 73 tank war, and I won't go into any more than that, but this, I'm just worried this is going to go even worse and rapidly worse. I'm again concerned that the military-industrial complex in this country is rubbing their hands with glee, and that's why the markets are up yesterday and today. And I don't think this bodes well for the rest of the world. Tell me why the CIA and the Mossad and your intelligence services in your country didn't know a bit about this. I saw a report this morning that the Egyptians warned Israel that this was happening.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if it's true or not. Who knows in the fog of war? But how these intelligence services, Julie Aaron said to me this morning, well, how is it any different than 9/11? Which, they heard rumors, thought about it, maybe.
Yeah.
In any event, I'm distraught. Julia, I know, is distraught. I know a lot of you are as well. I don't want, this is a sailing show, not an international affairs show. So let's, I talked to Stingray yesterday, and he has a lot of interesting insight as well. American hostages, people from all over the place. It's a sad scene that Julia, I'm afraid, is going to get only much worse.
And because I woke up in the middle of it, I sort of continued myself in that dream.
I think we all have.
Oh, I just can't.
I don't know why those intelligence services didn't know. I also wonder if they knew about it and said, bring it on,
Yeah.
let it go, thinking that, okay, we'll retaliate and we'll decimate the Gaza Strip and Hamas, which of course is going to happen, is apparently happening as we speak. And then what are these idiots in Iran thinking, the Ayatollahs, and what are they thinking?
Oh,
Because they must know this was going to be the response to go in decimate Gaza. Is this going to be their excuse to try to decimate Israel?
of course.
Of course. So, okay, again, you can't talk about it because it's going to affect our sport. We talked about the war, not only COVID, but the war going on still, all these now years later, still going on in Ukraine. And bloody hell, this thing has implications globally.
Indeed.
You going to say something? You were taking a
I
deep
was
breath.
about to do a rant, and I think I'll
The rest of the show, we're going to talk about more pleasant things, but we got one more unpleasant thing to talk about, perhaps. What in the world is being celebrated today, Julia? You recognize that flag? Does anybody know?
I don't.
A lot of people checking in from South America. Eduardo C.M., hello from Rio de Janeiro. While people are telling us what this is. Monica Diaz, yeah, it looks terrible. Monica's over there in Spain. I wonder, Spain, Fritz Mueller's got it. I wonder, Monica, how people in Spain are feeling and in New Zealand are feeling about Jeddah. We'll talk about that as well. John Emmett's got it. Taiwan independence. I also talked to John last night, late my time, or his early morning. And today is 10/10, double 10 day, as they call it in Taiwan. It's the Taiwanese Independence Day, which dates, the 10th of October was a uprising way back in 1911. And that's why Taiwan celebrates October 10th as its national day, marking that uprising that ended China's last imperial dynasty, as the Brits might say, dynasty, as we would say. And that imperial dynasty, you know how long that lasted? 5,000 years, those successive dynasties.
Oh, yes.
So that was ended in 1911. And there was a brief shining republic in China. And then the Republican government fled to Taiwan in 1949 after losing that civil war with Mao Zedong's communists, who set up the PRC. And the PRC remains Taiwan's formal name today. Of course, Taiwan and the Republic of China. And I'm just afraid this thing now is going to be invited. Tell me what? I don't know if it's going to be an invasion, or is it going to be an encircling?
Yeah, more likely.
More likely, but it's just, I'm afraid there's going to be some successive things. But we're going to be happy. We're going to celebrate our sport. We're going to celebrate great things in our sport, and we're going to talk about what did happen. Get this over with, because it was on this day, the 10th of October in 2021, related to our last little bit, that this lady who has been president of Taiwan, tough lady that she is, she's been president, Tsai Ing-wen. I went online to get the proper pronunciation. She has been president since 2016. It was a couple of years ago that she said that her country of Taiwan will not bow to Chinese pressure in a defiant speech on the Taiwanese National Day 2 years ago. She gave another one today. I didn't link to it, but this was the day after Chinese President Xi Jinping vowed to fulfill reunification. And I hope John knows more about this than any of us, but with his wife, Lily Zhu. I'm afraid this is going to accelerate this, if anything else, between these two. She's president through 2025. I think their election is 2024, and her second 4-year term is running now. She's a tough lady. She gave a tough speech today. I was reading it. So what's next for that? I don't know. You know what? I do care a lot, but let's get on to our beloved sport. We're going to get to Fernando in a minute. Happy Alegre, who is with us, standing by in Miami via Skype. And we just met face-to-face here in the Tech Check, and we're delighted to have him with us, talk about his coaching exploits and an incident earlier this year which has tarnished our sport and his reputation a bit, perhaps unfairly. We'll see what his side of the story is. As we want to revisit our terrific show on Friday, and thank again James Pleasance, who was our guest, Julia.
Yes.
from live via Skype from Bermuda, Bermuda,
Not for the first time.
Bermuda, and he was what Clark Chapin told us he's been on with us 6 times.
Mhm.
And he was with us, as I said, live via Skype. And along with him was Yanni Berenson from Sweden. And they remember this tropical storm Felipe was going up through and past Bermuda. Luckily, not a direct hit. I think it went up and hit our Fozy up in Nova Scotia and that area of North America. But it was fun talking with both of them as they were waiting out the storm, hoping to race on Saturday.
Yes.
And do you know what happened on Saturday?
They had to stop.
Clark Chapin and others said very little chance that they're going to race. Remember, too, we dragged, I think I was the one that convinced Christiane Price to come on.
Right.
The proud parent that she is of not only Olivia, but her son Harry, who was there racing in Bermuda and had made the semifinals, bless her heart. Yeah, he made the semifinals, but the semifinals were never raced because of the horrific weather at the Gold Cup, the King Edward the 7th Gold Cup. As you all know, it's the oldest match racing trophy in the world for competition involving one design yachts. It is a highly prestigious trophy with a rich tradition. We told you this last Friday, as well as I think probably last Tuesday. It was the only King's Cup ever to be offered up for competition in the U.S. And that event has been going on for a long time. And the Gold Cup through the quarterfinals with Berenson, Canfield, Price, and Williams. They were hoping to get to the semifinals and the finals on Saturday after taking Thursday and Friday off due to the rough weather. And they'd had a terrific series up till that point, a thrilling match that saw a tiresome combined 24 tacks in the span of about 2.5 minutes between Harry Price's down under racing team that defeated the Swiss, Eric Monin's Cop v Swiss match racing team 3-2 to advance to the semifinal round, which did not take place. Johnny Berenson joined the other three. Price joined Berenson and Taylor Canfield, Stars and Stripes team, and Ian Williams, who's also a previous winner, one of the most successful match racers in the modern history, in that semifinal round to be sailed on Saturday. They hoped the 3 veterans had combined to go 10-1 in the quarterfinals, which included Berenson winning 4 races to get the requisite 3-point. He got nicked for a collision. That was the scene in Hamilton Harbor on Saturday. 25-plus knots, gusting 35. So Yanni Berenson's team was declared the winner when they could not race on Saturday on the strength of their undefeated performance through the rounds robin. Were there double round robin? I can't remember. The weather conditions were awful. Those last 3 days, the remnants of Tropical Storm Felipe prevented any racing on Saturday, and the awards ceremony took place later that afternoon. There is Yanni, third from the left, second from the right, with his team of Patrick Sturrison, Bjorn Lundgren, Yanni himself there, and Herman Anderson. Bravo Zulu to them. They won 25 grand. It looks like some Gosling's rum, Julia.
Ooh.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's a good regatta to go to.
Well, I can't.
Drink a few.
I was going to say.
dark and stormy.
Yeah. I've been thinking about Pisco's.
Pisco fizzes.
Yeah, and yeah.
This is look at. He's in Miami. He's wondering what the hell are they on? First it's the war. Now they're talking. Now they're talking about drinking. Well, this is the drinking show of the sailing habit, as we like to say. Runners up coming out of the rounds robin was none other than Stars Plus Stripes, Taylor Canfield's team, USVI USA. He's also in Miami. We got a lot of Miami connections today. Congratulations, Taylor, to you and Mike and the rest of the gang on your runner-up status there. This is a terrific event. You get a club like the Royal Bermuda Yacht Club and their Commodore Craig Davis, who turn out year after year after year. In fact, this is the first time they've been able to run that event since 2020. They ran it in the middle of COVID. They managed to, and then in 2021 and 2022 and sponsorship, et cetera. But bravo Zulu to Commodore Davis and his entire club. One hears that this is happening again next year. The Bermuda Gold Cup will be in October, dates TBA. And one hears there may also be a women's match racing tour event concurrent, either just before just after or concurrent
Yes.
with the Gold Cup. So that's
It'd be
good
great
news.
fun.
Huh?
That'd be
Isn't
great.
that good news?
Mm.
So bravo Zulu to them. Bravo Zulu to the entire team at the Royal Bermuda. There's James on the left. The Commodore is in there somewhere. He's like third from the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth from the right, maybe up here above Yanni's team. And it looks like a good time was had by all, despite the weather. This
Oh,
quote
no.
from texting with James this morning, who presumably is back in London. He said it was fantastic to be back in Bermuda after the last event here in 2020 during COVID. The Bermuda Gold Cup is an iconic event that every match racer wants to win and have their name etched on the King Edward VII Gold Cup alongside the likes of arguably the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Russell Coutts, Chris Dixon, who's had a lot of success in that event, and of course, Sir Ben Ainsley. It was a shame to cancel 3 days of racing this year due to T.S. Felipe, but a very well-deserved win for Yanni and his crew nonetheless. And James wrapped up by saying huge thanks to Commodore Craig Davis and the whole team and staff at RBYC Royal Bermuda Yacht Club for hosting a great event, and to Bermuda Tourism for their generous support. So bravo Zulu to them all. Thanks again to James and to Yanni and to Christian for coming on. It was terrific. Great segment, and too bad they didn't have the racing, but we took advantage of that, Julia.
We did.
Okay, let's get our esteemed guest on live via Skype from Miami and welcome formally Fernando Alegre. And Alegre, of course, those of you who speak Spanish will know Alegre means happy. Hello, Happy. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Tom. How are you?
You're a little dark there. If you can turn a little bit, get more light on your face.
Sure.
He was on his, Alegre was on his phone. Yeah, just turn a little bit and get more light on your face, I think. Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Better?
Live via Skype from Miami. He's rushing around coaching down there.
Yeah.
We managed to get a tech check in and delighted to have you with us. Alegre, Senor Alegre, originally from Peru, now living, I guess, in the States, mostly in Miami. And not just an Opti coach, Fernando, but you've been coaching 49ers, ILCAs, and any number of other classes.
Yes. I have been lucky enough to learn from really good coaches and from really good mentors that have taught me multiple classes. So I enjoy working with the juniors in the Optimist and with the youth in the transitional classes, and then as well with Olympic athletes that are preparing for competing next year in Paris.
Hang on here. I'm going to put a little bit of filter on you and see if I can lighten you up a bit so that we can see you a bit better. Gamma, contrast. Is that better, Julia?
Yes.
Brightness. There, I got you lit up a bit here using.
Do you want me to turn off this
No,
light?
that's good, actually. That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
That's better.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it, Julia?
Yes.
Okay, that's quick on the uptake here. Yeah, that looks a lot better, Fernando. Thank you. And the lighting conditions are changing there as it's 14, 16. It's almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon there in Miami, so late in the year. Let's go back and talk a little bit about the Optimist class itself. I've actually never. My daughter had an Optimist. Meg had an Optimist for about 6 months and decided she didn't like it and wanted to sail big boats. And that was when she was quite young. But
That's
the
smart.
Optimist, say again.
That's smart.
And smart. No, it's a great class. And, some people poo-poo it, some people criticize it, and other people can't imagine why everybody in the world doesn't embrace it. And for better or worse, and I think mostly for better, the Optimist dinghy, which dates to 1947 and just celebrated their what? 47, is that their 70th? In 2007? And there is a book on Amazon written by Robert Wilkes, who I've known, I think, Robert, I don't know if he's still alive or not, but his wife, Helen Mary is. And this Amazon says about the book, which was, I thought, interesting, The Orange Crate That Changed the World.
Great.
How did a funny-looking box with a strange rig from the creeks of Florida come to be the globally accepted first sailboat for young people? How did it happen? What were the steps that led to its success? How did it change attitudes to junior sailing? How many optimists are there? How does it relate to the Olympics? This book chronicles, with the help of contemporary documents and photos, the history of 60 years of change. Okay, 60, not 70. I can't add today, Julia, or subtract. 60 years of change and growth and charts with hard facts and figures what has become the stuff of legends. I think that's all fair to say.
Yes.
Nothing has gathered more legends than the historic events of 1947. In a 23-page supplement, Cliff McKay Jr., the first boy to sail an Optimist, has researched and now publishes what really happened. So that book's available on Amazon about the Opti. And I served alongside this lady in the middle. I'll tell you about her in a moment. But the two people on the outside are Viggo and Edith Jacobson. I don't know where. I think they're Brits. I'm not 100% sure if they're Irish or Brits. But the two of them got IOTA, the International Optimist Dinghy Association, going. And back in 1990, they're with my longtime friend, Helen Mary Wilkes, who, along with Robert, virtually ran the IOTA for years and years and years, served very ably, very well in what was IYRU and then ISAF and World Sailing. In fact, that is Helen Mary in the middle, she also promoted women's sailing and women's sailing, girls sailing in the Optimist class, but women's sailing worldwide. And it was received any number of awards due to her service to our beloved sport. Here she is in 2008 with her husband, Robert, there on the left, Robert and Helen Mary Wilkes, with my longtime friend, Swede Göran Peterson, who was president of ISAF for 8 years, and also instrumental, Göran was in initiating umpiring.
Uh-huh.
He was one of the first handful of umpires. In fact, the famous picture, I should have, we'll do it another time. We all put on hockey. He's also an old hockey referee.
Then no wonder
Göran
you're in
is.
trouble.
So we got
Yeah.
we got umpiring off the ground along with Ken Ryan from Ireland and a couple others. But that was an award presented by Göran, a development award to Helen Mary and Robert, who've been the driving force for this under U16 sailing, which now has it's the Optimist class, 80 nations competing internationally, 71 of them with female sailors. And this was in 2008, probably more than that now. Their contribution to the global development of junior sailing has been immense. And I think that is true for the Opti class
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I should stop there and ask our guest, ask Fernando to talk in general. Happy, tell us in general about the Optimist class and what a tremendous influence it has been on junior sailing and in sailing in general.
Yeah, well, it's definitely for juniors the best class to really start racing. The way it is organized worldwide, the amount of regattas that there are worldwide is very easy to go to any country and borrow or rent a boat. So really, if you want to start into sailboat racing at a junior level, definitely is one of the classes to consider. It has continental championships in every continent, plus it has a world championship every year. So it's a quite well-organized class with worldwide regattas all year round. So definitely it's the best platform for young kids to start introduced to racing in sailboats.
Happy, how did you get involved? You were doing other Olympic classes, I gather, from your CV and talking from others and reading about you online. You were doing 49ers and ILCAs and other classes before the Opti, or was it Opti and then the other Olympic classes?
No. I actually started coaching by accident, to be honest, because I was sailing all my life, and when I started university, I studied engineering. In the university, the exams were on the weekends, were on Saturdays, and as you know, the sailing competitions are always on weekends. So I had to stop sailing myself while I was in the faculty and studying my career, with the intentions to come back to continue sailing, and that's where I got involved in coaching while I was studying university. And without planning, I started liking it. I started getting more and more involved with the coaching. I started really developing a passion for it. And eventually, it became my career. I finished my engineering career, and I started coaching overseas. I was coaching at that time in Peru. I started coaching overseas. I went to the Caribbean for 3 years, based in Trinidad and Tobago. And we had some good results in a little island where we started a program from zero. And eventually, that's where I met people from Singapore in a World Championship in 2005, and they offered me the possibility to go and help them with our Optimist class. So I moved to Singapore to start working with the Optimist, and parallel to that, the sailors that have aged out from Optimist from the Caribbean that I coached the previous years were already in ILCA and were already trying to go into in Olympic classes. So I was doing parallel ILCA 7, at that time was called the Laser Standard. I was coaching in parallel the Trinidad and Tobago Laser team and the Singapore Optimist team. There was no conflict because one was junior class and the other one was Olympic class. And that's how I got involved into ILCA sailing with Andrew Lewis, a 3-time Olympian. And in that journey together, of course, we met fantastic people, fantastic coaches, fantastic athletes that we learned together from them. And the ILCA is not really that complicated boat at a single-handed compared to a 470 to a 49er. So was, I will not say an easy transition, but was the adaptation from Optimist to the next class was pretty smooth. I had already sailed lasers myself as well, so I understood the boat pretty well. And then I had sailors in the Optimist class aging out in 420s, in 29ers, in multiple classes at different moments. They required also some assistance with their coaching. So I had to learn other classes. And again, I was fortunate enough to really learn from really, really good people. A particular boat like the 49er from a good friend, Ramon Aixemeno from Barcelona. Was when two former sailors that I had in the Optimist class approached me from Singapore and told me that they wanted to campaign for Rio 2016. So we started a program basically from zero because they didn't know how to sail the skiff that well. It was the first quadrennial for the 49er. I understood sailing the sport very well. I just needed to learn the technicalities of the class, and I got really into it with Ramon, trying to pick his brain, trying to really learn it as much as I could, and from other coaches, from other people, and eventually end up learning the boat at a pretty good. I feel very comfortable coaching that class now, and then we went to Rio. It was a really good experience. That was my second Olympic Games as a coach. The first one was in 2012. Then for Tokyo, I didn't go. I didn't go for Tokyo, and then for Paris next year there is strong chances. We still have to qualify the country, but we are working hard for it to make it happen. No?
What country are you working to qualify? Singapore again? Are you working on Olympic?
No. Time we have the Pan American Games. I'm gonna be coaching Puerto Rico ILCA 7 in Pan American Games in Santiago de Chile, which is at the end of this month. And it gives one spot for the Olympics in the North for the North American country, no?
Yeah.
The North American country will fight for one spot there.
Let's go back to the Opti class for a sec. Now that we've heard all that's very interesting. I had no idea. I learned something more and more about you. Watch out for the bed bugs in Paris and in Marseille. Apparently, did you see all those articles, Julie, about bed bugs? We talk about anything on here, Fernando. By the way, you're getting a lot of love from any number of people on here, including Monica Diaz, who you must know in Spain, who's our regular, is our Fozy on here. And she says, guapo, guapito, guapo. Let's go to the Opti class. And this comment from Mark Curtis, who's a very switched on guy. Maybe you know Mark. He says, any boat that is governed by a strong class organization can be a good boat to compete in, especially in the early years. I, for one, think that the Bullseye is liking to sailing a clawfoot bathtub with a bed sheet for the sail, but it has such a good class organization and they run good races. So more power to them. I've never sailed an Optimist, but a lot of people like them, so more power to them. And Julia, as you know, and Fernando, I'm a big believer in the marketplace. And when the market works, and as it has, the Optimist is by far the most popular youth trainer for what? U16, U15? When do you, I know it's a size thing, but what's the
Yeah.
maximum age more or less?
You can sail Optimist until the year that you turn 15.
15.
So if you turn 15 in 1st of January, you can sail Optimist that whole year. Or if you turn 15 on the 31st of December, that's your last day of Optimist. So it's by year. The year you turn 15 is your last year.
Yeah, lots of folks on here, and apparently some of your fans as well. Happy's best advice to a younger Opti coach: 3 ways to go fast in light wind. That's from Hugo Vestberg, I guess in Sweden, if I remember well. And on and on and on. Monica's saying, do you breathe after you have to have that long soliloquy there? I got an optimist, I think he means Opti. When this is Jody Shields down under, I got an optimist when I was young. For some reason, I have always seen the bright side of okay. Jody makes the good jokes on here. Graham Sweeney, I was sailing international moths at age 15. Great. Graham Sweeney, you may know, up in Scotland, Yell, Scotland. Let's go ahead, Julia.
I'll just interrupt you to remind everybody to read all the comments.
Oh, good point.
Because they're wonderful, and you will know a lot of those people, and you wouldn't want to miss their comments.
Yeah, Happy. We get, as you gather, we like to go to the comments, but we get hundreds of comments in each of these shows. And the people are live around the world, and then we get. In fact, Julia also will remind us to go back and read the comments in replay, because unlike most shows where they have to turn the comments off after the show because you get so many trolls and so many idiots coming on, making personal attacks and snarky remarks and coarse language. Coarse language. We don't allow that, and people respect it. Thank goodness. Let's talk about the U.S. ODA. We've talked a little bit about IOTA and my long relationship with Helen Mary Wilkes on various committees. She was a real tough, strong, smart leader. Let's talk about here in the U.S. Now, I went on the website last night, and there's nobody listed as president of U.S. ODA. Senate Bischoff, whom I've also known for a long, long time, is listed as a VP, but there's 2 VPs and president not listed. They're empty, but they had an annual meeting in August, and one hears that another longtime friend of ours, and I think he's even been on the show, I'm pretty sure, that Bill Stump from Cal Yacht Club, who was treasurer, has been on the board, does a lot of judging and race committee work for all sorts of events, but particularly for the Opti Association. He is now the president. Stumpy is the new U.S. ODA president at Cal Yacht Club down in Marina del Rey in SoCal. So bravo Zulu to him for taking this on. I'll also say that the executive, where's the listing there? The executive director, full disclosure, Beth Danilek. Beth, whose maiden name is Borton, I've known all my life.
Really?
She grew up at our little home club in Michigan, Portage Yacht Club, and her parents were sailors and great sailors, and I mean, you talk about spark plugs and contributors to the sport. She and her 2 sisters, great contributors, and now she's in retirement. She's 60-ish, give or take, and she said, "This is my new job as into retirement and beyond, as executive director of the U.S. ODA." So they've had some leadership issues, challenges, but I'm pleased to know that Stumpy is our new president of U.S. ODA. I texted with him this morning. You know me, Julia.
Oh, yes.
I get right on the text, and he said, "Hi, Tom. Greetings from Amsterdam, traveling with Debbie, his S.O., his significant other, on our at least annual trip to somewhere interesting and fun. And then they're going to cruise the Rhine to Basel, then on to Lake Como to meet up with George Clooney." Just kidding. Before heading back to reality, would be privileged. I asked him if he'd come on the show. Sometime when I'm in your time zone, he lives here on the West Coast, between now and then, I'll conjure up some viable principles of how we want to run our class. All the best. So a great contributor to our sport. And just full disclosure, I know these folks, as does Happy. And let's go back to Happy now and talk about, before we get into the controversy of what happened in April, Happy, tell us about some of the great success you've had with your various teams over the years. Here's one.
Well, no, that's a picture of that's a picture of last year's World Championship, 2022 Optimist World Championship, where the U.S. medaled in all the three competitions we participated. They won. This is the gold medal in the Nations Cup, which is the team aggregate. Sorry. This is the gold medal in the team racing. In the team racing, they became world champions in team racing, which is 4 against 4. And then in that same World Championship, the country finished second in the Nations Cup. And then James Pine finished second as well in the fleet race. So the country entered in 3 competitions in the World Championship and managed to bring back medals in all of them. No, but that, to be honest, Tom.
Let me get to one more photo here. Tell us
Sure.
about these two guys from, I guess, this year.
Oh yes,
all three of these.
Yes. This maybe has been the most emotional 2 medals ever in my career, because of what they really meant, and with all the struggle that we had to prepare these World Championships. And these 2 guys prepared and handled it amazing, and this was the most emotional 2 medals I have ever supported as a coach. No, it was this year. Both on the right is Travis Greenberg, who finished second, silver medalist, and on the other side on the podium in bronze medal was Wilder Smith from Connecticut, a great sailor as well. So both of them medaling was something that really I can describe as a coach.
And who are the other? Who's the winner from apparently Sweden, and where was this event?
The winner is Henrik Wixford. He won this year, really good. On the last race, he beat Travis. They basically did a match race similar to the match race between Ben Ainsley and Robert Scheidt in Sydney 2000. They did a match race in the whole last race, and they basically finished last and one before last, which was a really good strategy for him because he had a better discard. So he's a really good sailor, Henrik. It was his last year, his last Worlds. So I think I don't know what class he's going to be sailing after. In the case of Wilder, he's right now already in high school, so he's sailing 420 for high school, and then we went to the ILCA 4 Worlds straight away after the Optimist Worlds. And right now he's trying all different boats. He's between Club 420 and ILCA. Hopefully can go to 29er and to some foiling. So at this moment, just trying as many classes as possible, and then eventually see what will be the right fit for him. No, if to continue single-handed or to go double-handed. No.
Let me ask you about. In fact, several people have mentioned this in the comments. Fritz Mueller down in Miami, down near you, is saying, love the political statements on the podium. So this says no poverty. This says zero hunger. This says good health, and I think it's talking about health and food. So where are these political statements come from? Is this the class? Is this the regatta? Interesting.
Well, this is the podium of the regatta. The regatta was this year in Costa Brava, 1.5 hour north of Barcelona, in a little town called San Pere Pescador. But this is a podium, so I guess that this is either something of the regatta organizer, or IODA, no, because IODA really is the government body. But to be honest, I really don't know what it means too much.
Okay, well, that's fair. Interesting. You don't normally, I think, Julie, it's fair to say we don't normally see that kind of political, whether it's political or it's just social, I guess, social commentary as much as anything. Okay, let's talk about the controversy now of this past, April and our spring, Northern Hemisphere spring. It was your autumn down under in Peru. This actually happened in Peru, and this is at the South American Championships. And this headline, this is when I first learned about you and learned about this, was this horrible headline about cheating at the Optimist Championship and USA cheating at the Optimist Championship, this headline that ran in Scuttlebutt from the Opti South Americans, which were in your home country in Paracas. Isn't Paracas where uh, is that where the Pan Am Games were held last
Yes,
time?
yes, that's correct. The Pan Am Games were held there in 2019.
So in Peru, and this happened in April at the 2023 Opti South Americans. And then
That's
this
correct.
letter came out from USODA that was sent to me and a few others. And I checked it out. I told you I know a lot of the folks in the Opti Association. And I couldn't get a straight story. So I'm glad we've got you on here to at least hear your side of the story after this letter went out from the U.S. Optimist Dinghy Association. Quote, many of you are aware of the unfortunate events that transpired at the South Americans this week involving Coach Happy. For those of you who are not, the findings of the international jury are posted online. Yesterday, USODA removed Happy as coach for the USA South American team based on the findings of that international jury, and he has been replaced by Pepe Bettini. I am writing to inform all of the USNT national team families that Happy is also suspended as the USNT coach effective immediately. Happy has been informed of his suspension, and then decisions they wrote that regarding Happy's future with the USNT will be made after the U.S. Optimist Dinghy Association Executive Committee disciplinary hearing, which will be held per our bylaws and code of conduct. So first of all, Happy, what happened at that disciplinary committee proceeding? And then let's go back and revisit this whole thing, because I think in many respects you've been unfairly impugned from what I hear.
Well, no, with that hearing, at the end, the sanction that they gave me was basically to remove me from the Optimist World's coach position. I had been selected to be the world's coach for this year World Championship in Costa Brava. So that audience hearing that happened with USODA board members, at the end, I came with lawyers, of course. At the end, the decision was that I will not be the coach for the Optimist Worlds.
Right, which is their right to make that decision regardless, and they did. Then there's been no Rule 69 hearing by the jury, no cheating act per se accusations. People can, as apparently Scuttlebutt did, can draw their own conclusions. And I know that the editor of Scuttlebutt, as he said in that editorial, has never liked the Optimist class, and they don't have Optimists here in California. We've got El Toros up here, and we've got Sabbats down in SoCal. Mm-hmm. But just correct me if I'm wrong. There's never been a Rule 69 hearing, or there's been never any formal accusations of cheating against you or against that USA team. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct.
Okay, so what happened? How did this all become such a controversy? What did this jury decide, and why?
Yeah, well, it all started not with USODA. It started with IODA. When we arrived to the regatta, we were provided boats, charter boats that IODA was supposed to control, and that IODA is supposed to give you racing boats in racing conditions. So when we arrived there, we were given boats that were 1.5 to 2 kilos heavier than the stipulated weight class. So it's normally a hull weight 35 kilos, and our boats were weighing way more than that. And I didn't realize that when we went to the scale for measurement. I realized that when we were sailing, because sailors that normally could take off in planing conditions in 12, 13 knots, just couldn't get the boat to plane. And these are very good sailors that have skills to get the boat planing in those conditions, and the boat just didn't react. So I right away realized that there was a problem with the boat, because it was the only thing that we were using that was not ours. So when I went to see the measurements of the first countries, which was Brazil, I spoke to the coach, and he told me that all his boats were way heavier. Some of them were actually 2 kilos heavier, or even more, so 37.5, even more than 2.5 kilos. And in a tiny boat of 35 kilos, it does make a difference. So what happened was that it says that charter boats in the notice of race are not mandatory. But if you are going to charter, then they are mandatory. What I mean by that? That, for example, if we would have taken from the US, we were there with 10 sailors, if we would have taken from the US our 10 boats, we could have raced with our 10 boats. But if we wanted to go to Peru and rent, let's say, a second boat from a Peruvian guy, we couldn't. If you are going to rent a boat, unless you are using your own, you have to rent it mandatory from the organizing authority. So these boats were actually not in racing conditions, and they were really a problem. And we had been charged $700 per boat. So when these regattas happen, whether it's a continental championship or a world championship, IODA send visitors to the events. They send visitors to Paracas, they send visitors to Costa Brava 1, 2, 3 times in advance an event to check the hotel, to check the food, to check that everything is in place. But apparently in these visits that they did to Peru, they never actually checked the most important thing, which is the boats that are going to be provided to the athletes, where they are charging $700 per boat, per sailor, and they are giving you a boat that is not even close to racing conditions. So what happened was that I needed to bring this up before we went to measurement. And because I knew it was going to be a sensitive topic, because obviously to me, it's lack of competence on their side. If they are organizing a regatta and they are making you pay $700 per boat, it's their responsibility to give you a boat that is in racing conditions. So I spoke with my team leader and with a parent representative and told them that I needed them to come with me to have a talk with the IODA people about this issue. So I went to express to them that issue, and they mentioned to us that we were going to go, they were very defensive in that moment. How come you know that your boats are heavy? Have you actually weighted them? And I say, no, I haven't. Well, let's wait for it to see. And I already knew, because like I told you, you could see the performance of the boats, and I already had seen the previous teams measuring. So that's exactly what happened. At the end of the days, I offer a possibility, which was, listen, keep the money. I mean, if the money is a problem, keep the money. I will get the second-hand boats of the Peruvian team that are in very old conditions, but I would rather use boats in old conditions, but with the right weight, than using boats that could look newer, but are heavier. And they didn't allow us to do that. They didn't allow us to do that because they say, no, if you charter, you must charter the boats that we provide. Is the rules? Fine. But I also brought up an issue of safety, because on the previous days of the regatta, the venue had been very windy, very, very windy. It was blowing 25 knots plus every day. And during the training days, we chartered 2 coach boats. We had a team of 10 sailors from the US, and we were 2 coaches on the water with 2 coach boats, 4 10 sailors, which was a good ratio for coaching and for safety. But once the regatta comes, they have this rule that they make you share a coach boat. It's mandatory to share the coach boat with another country. And at the end of the days, the 2 American coaches were supposed to go in 1 boat. So now from 10 sailors and 2 coach boats, we were reduced to 10 sailors and 1 coach boat. And the US team is pretty competent. We're all good sailors. So the issues were not that big compared to other teams, where the difference between the top sailors and the younger, less experienced sailors are much bigger. But if there was any problem with any of the sailors, something breaks, a sprit halyard breaks, a boom bam breaks, and me and the other coach of the US are confined in only 1 boat while we are fixing 1 sailor in the 25, 30 knots, the other 9 kids are totally unattended, and and I don't think it was safe nor appropriate.
Okay, so you had some problems with IOTA, and you had some problems with apparently the LOC, as the Olympics would call it, the local organizing committee. What was it about moving the boats out of the boat park back to the shed or the area of the shed and doing something with the centerboard gaskets that apparently the measures had not approved? Because that's what I read in the jury report.
Correct. So, well, this introduction was because just for you to know that unfortunately all our requests were denied, and we were forced to race with those boats that were not in the optimal conditions, and definitely these people from IOTA were not very happy when we exposed in a way their deficiencies, no? So
Yeah.
a way they were not happy with how they had been exposed, how they provide these kind of boats. So we went before the regatta started. This is not when the regatta had started. Before the regatta started, the day of the practice race, it was on a Sunday. We went for our last training session, and when the kids came back from the water, some of the sailors informed me that the rubber stoppers of the daggerboard case, which is some rubber plastic things that are near the ends of the daggerboard case to avoid the daggerboard scratching the fiberglass or breaking the daggerboard,
Yeah.
had fallen out of the boats. And can you show that picture, please? Can you show that picture of the venue that you just showed a while ago, where it shows the desert and it shows the boat park?
Okay, just a sec. I think I can. Is that it?
Yeah, exactly. So that sandy beach where the boats are parked, that was the boat park, correct? And that's where the boats were stored overnight.
Yep.
Correct. If you look on the picture,
right here.
Okay, correct. That was all the boat park for the boats to be stored. On the upper left hand of that picture, behind those rooms on the left, that there were tents.
Up here.
Exactly. Just behind there. Exactly. Just behind there was full of tents that were given by the organizers to each team. So each team had a tent that says Argentina, Brazil, Peru, USA, so on. And they gave us a huge tent, exactly, right behind that, exactly. So those tents were meant to store your sails, your spars, your foils, any equipment that you had, because they had obviously the letters. And we were sharing a tent with Chile. There were huge, like, military tents, and it was Chile on one side and USA on the other side. We were sharing a tent. So on that last day of training before the regatta started, it was blowing a paracas. A paracas is the name from like a sandstorm that blows in the desert. The thermal wind blows above 20, 25 knots and gets the sand and starts blowing it off in the desert. And when the sailors returned to shore, they told me, hey, the stoppers came out. So I needed to replace the stoppers, which was remove the old glue, the old silicone, get new stoppers, fix them, and then put the filling on top of it. No. So it was 3 o'clock. The opening ceremony was going to be at 4 o'clock. So I told the sailors, please take the boats. The boats that need to be repaired from the sand that was blowing paracas. So sand was blowing all over the air. And I told them, bring them to the tent, to the USA tent, to where all the other teams were also storing their sails, their blades, multiple things. And on the way to them, the kids followed my instructions. They brought the boats and left it on the USA tent. And they left to shower. I told them, you leave, go to shower, go to prepare yourself for the opening ceremony, and I will end up doing these stoppers. I went to the boat supplier guy to ask him for the stoppers, and he gave me the stoppers. So then I was cleaning the old glue with the boats in the USA tent. I was cleaning the old glue when this lady, the measurer, the ones that we just had this conversation about, that we highlighted the problem with the boats, came and basically came very emotional and started saying, you are polishing, I'm going to protest you. The regatta had not even yet started. The regatta has not even yet started. Now let me explain you what happens here.
Hang on, because polishing is not permitted except with water?
No, so let me explain you. Polishing is polishing with normal speed polish, with let's say the McLoop or the Harken one. It's a common practice in sailboat racing.
Yes.
It's you can polish if you want as much as you want. If you want, you can polish every single day. There is no restriction in any regatta. In US ODA regattas, for example, you can polish your boat every morning if you want to, unless the sailing instructions tell you something different, which has never been the case. So in IODA regattas, only in IODA regattas, they have a rule that boats can only be washed with water. That boats could only be washed with water. You cannot use soap, you cannot use polish, you cannot use anything except water. Correct?
Now, hang on. In what kind of regattas? In
IODA regattas, so continentals and worlds, IODA.
IODA and continentals and worlds. So this was the South American regatta. So you could only use water on the boat.
That's correct.
Under IODA rules. Okay, copy.
Which stands for International Optimist Dinghy Association. No, it's the governing body for the Optimist class.
But normally you can use McLube, you can use soap, you can use other things to wash the boats at most other regattas, but not at IODA regattas, including the South Americans.
Correct. In IODA regatta, their interpretation is that you can polish or you can sand or you can clean the boats until right before measurement.
Copy.
We had already passed measurement the day before on Saturday.
And when they saw you fixing the centerboard gaskets, they thought you were polishing the boat. Were you polishing the boat?
No, I was not polishing the boats. I never polished the boat, and the way I proved that was because my intention, since we were allowed to clean the boats and we were allowed to actually fix the boats like every other country did before measurement. Before measurement, I wanted to polish the boats before measurement, all of them. So, because I didn't know that the boats were going to be in so bad conditions. So one of the parents from the US that was coming later, we had already arrived previously on the previous days, I asked him, can you please bring 3 McLoop tubes to polish all the 10 boats of our kids? But when this guy arrived, the luggage didn't arrive. The thing is that he ended up bringing the tubes to me, but after measurement. So I never used the McLoop tubes. And when we went to the protest, one of the proofs I had that I had not polished was that I took the 3 tubes that this parent had brought to me in the Ziploc bag, totally closed, never used before, because we had already passed measurement. The reason why this lady was in Paracas, it's a desert. Water is the supply of water is not very big. And in that time, for us to get water to clean the old things, we were using buckets of paint buckets. So I went to a hose, I put in paint buckets, and I was bringing buckets of water next to the boat.
Yeah, you can see how dry it is in Paracas.
Yeah, all that sand in the desert behind is like sand dunes. Once the wind picks up, the sun starts blowing,
Yeah. Let's cut to the quick, because obviously there's some big misunderstandings here, and it sounds like the US ODA up in North America, they're meeting by telephone conference call when they decided to suspend your coaching duties there at the South Americans. But what was this about moving the boats without the permission of the measure and doing this change to the centerboard trunk without the permission of the measure after measurement had concluded? Is that true or not?
Yes, that's true. So let me explain you how it works. If something falls in a regatta, let's say the stoppers fall in a regatta, before you replace them, you need to go online to the sailor account and say, I am replacing the stopper fell out, I am replacing it, and they reply you and say, go ahead, and then you fix it. For me, the regatta had in that moment, because we had the opening ceremony, sure, there was a mistake, and that's why we had a penalty. And I recognize that there was a mistake in procedure. But one thing is to do a mistake in procedure, because what I did was repair the stoppers, fill the form, go to racing the next day. It's not that I am fixing something, going to race with them without permission, and then trying to fill the form.
You weren't trying to do something surreptitiously. You weren't trying to hide the fact that you were making a change to the boat that maybe the measures wouldn't know about.
No, at all. If just for you to understand, the stoppers that I fixed that day were the stoppers that the sailors continue using the whole regatta.
Copy.
So it's not that I put something illegal on the daggerboard case or that I put something. It's the same stoppers I fixed were the ones that they finished the regatta with.
Copy. So it sounds like you made some mistakes. It sounds like the jury got a little overly exercised. But again, to repeat, there was never any finding. There was never a Rule 69 hearing. There were no accusations of cheating by anybody, including U.S. ODA, after they decided to suspend you on the basis of this jury report from South America during the South Americans in April.
So,
And
yes,
what has happened since? You didn't get to go coach at the Worlds after that, which was sometime this summer, right?
no. So what happens is this: the sailors were. I think it's important to clarify this. No, the sailors were protested by this jury before the regatta had started, and this protest was lodged on Sunday before the regatta started. So
The reason the sailors is because under the rules, you protest the sailors, you don't protest the boat or the code. They could have taken a Rule 69 action against you or the parents or anybody else, but the jury decided to protest the sailors for breaking these fairly minor rules, apparently.
the one that presents the protest is the measurer, is an IOTA measurer, and then the jury is a total independent international jury, is a total independent committee that sees this protest, and I totally respect the decision of the jury. I was going to ask for a reopening of hearing based on their interpretation and based on some other evidence that came after, like the video surveillance camera that I had access after. But since I was removed from the position exactly 5 minutes after the hearing finished, I couldn't even continue with the right procedure to actually turn the protest around. So let me explain you a little bit chronologically.
You know what? I think we've got a pretty good idea, and I think our viewers have got a pretty good idea. There was some misunderstandings. You made some mistakes. The jury, it sounds like, got a little exercised, and then US ODA up in North America said, hey, they didn't follow the rules. We can't have a coach that doesn't follow the rules and puts our team in jeopardy. And that sounds to me like what they thought was going on. But again, I'll say it again, this idea that the media, some of the sailing media here in this country, decide that there was a big cheating incident by the USA team, by the USA coach, simply was not true. And I guess that's why the jury never took that decision, nor did US ODA.
No, this protest was presented on a Sunday, and the hearing was on a Monday, so it was 24 hours later. US ODA decided to replace me even before the hearing was heard.
Yeah.
So the decision to send the coach to replace me was already done before actually the hearing had happened.
Yeah,
So,
and I get it, because Julie, as you know, I happy you don't know this, but I ran. But I'll tell you who does know this is that Beth Danileg, Beth Morton, it was her family name, knows it. I ran the youth hockey program in my hometown in Michigan for 6 years, and let me tell you, running a youth anything, including a hockey program, and dealing with the parents is never easy. And you deal with this. In fact, people are asking you about advice on how you deal with parents in youth sailing. But let me read a comment that Brian Greenberg, whom I do not know, has just posted. He says, this is Brian Greenberg, I was president of US ODA at the time and respectfully recused myself from the conversations as my son was involved in the regatta. The board's reaction, meaning the US ODA's board's reaction to this event, was targeted, conniving, misinformed, and absolutely did not match what went on in Peru. So that is the then president of US ODA, and I know, Happy, that the US ODA and the board got into quite a internal controversy over all this. And I know that my longtime friend, Bill Stumpy as we call him, is the new president of USODA. And I also know that the annual meeting was in August, and his name was not put on the website until this morning when I called it out to the class. Said, hey, I wrote to the class and said, hey, who's president? Why is nobody listed? So I don't want to get into all that. It's unfortunate. We don't need to air that dirty laundry, but it sounds like there was a misunderstanding. You made some mistakes. There was some politics involved. And bottom line, maybe you can put a bottom line. I don't want to move ahead to what you're doing now because there's a lot of good things still going on.
Yes. No, at the end, like I told you, the jury, if they would have found any close to cheating or to they could have done a warning, they could have done a D&E, do not discard, do not exclude. They could have disqualified the sailors in the 3 races. They could have thrown me out of the regatta. They could have, but actually they didn't. They put because the jury has to react if there was whether the sailing instructions were broken intentionally or unintentionally. They need to give a penalty. So that's what they did. I think that the international jury did correctly because according to their interpretation, I took the boats out of the boat park to our tent.
Yeah, well, I guarantee you, and as Julia knows, and as our FOSI, we call them FOSI, Friends of Sailing Illustrated, who are regulars on here watching, and some who are contributors via Patreon. Well, I guarantee you, Happy, that I didn't know you until we talked face-to-face in the tech check this morning, but I did check this out when I saw the headlines and read the articles in the forum of Sailing Anarchy. And had we been convinced, Julia and I been convinced that there was cheating going on, that there was something really bad going on, we would have gone into this and we would have dragged your ass and everybody else's over the coals like anything. So it's really sad that this has turned into this, and I'm glad you've had the chance to kind of clear the air. And I know there's probably some parents on here watching who say, oh, that's not right. And there's a guy called Rainer Wolf, who I don't know. Rainer Wolf is a good German name. He says, just follow the rules and everyone is, and then he says capital H, happy. So I'm sure there's pros and cons, and it's going to be a he said, she said. We're not going to solve this problem, but I'm glad you've had a chance to air it. Julia, do you have any questions or comments about all this?
I'm just reading the final 4 comments, which says, Paid Reporting Center says, I'm so sad, Happy, and I would employ him any day to coach my grandkids, a true professional.
That's Peter Stevenson down in Australia. Sydney, Alex Kent, cancel culture, guilty if accused regardless of evidence. Yeah. There's a good comment.
Right.
Joe Holtzman, who is also from my home club originally in Michigan, knows the Borton family, knows what a cool gal Beth Danilek, Borton Danilek and her family are and were. Oh boy, sounds like a big nothing burger. Stingray's up in Seattle, grew up sailing in Opti, I guess in South Africa where he grew up. Thank you for everything you do. You are very sharp, and the sport obviously benefits. And Graham Sweeney asking the question, surely the regatta was void if the boats were not down to the correct weight. Well, they're borrowed boats. It's always a problem. We got 100 messages already. Yeah. Real man that teaches. Nog Willis. Hello, Nog. I'm not sure we've seen you on before. Welcome. Real man that teaches more than just sailing. So I appreciate you coming on, Happy. Let's, can we move forward now? Anything else from Happy or Julia on this topic?
No.
Happy, are you happy?
Yes. No, I
Estás
think
Alegre?
Yeah, no, I think that the only thing I want to clarify was that this decision could have perfectly been reopened in the hearing with the new evidence that came out after, if the procedure would have been as normal, meaning that the sailors got a disqualification. You have 24 hours to submit a reopening of hearing if you have new evidence, which we had in that moment, because the interpretation was wrong on the boat park. Because under that interpretation, the whole regatta should have been disqualified because everybody was storing.
Yeah, okay, but again, you're getting into the weeds here on this, and it's hard. I gather. I hear in the frustration in your voice and so on. But
it's very clear, no, because I think that it could have been turned around pretty easily.
Copy. I absolutely. And, you know, I don't know if you know this either. I have spent I mean, I've been a rules person and on protest committees and juries, including 2 Olympic juries. I've chaired I don't know how many world championship juries in the star class, in the 440 class, and the 470 class, and yada yada yada. And this it sounds too like juries. And Clark Chapin's on here as a super judge, and there are a lot of people on here who know our sport, and this is one of those moments where the jury needs to go have a quiet discussion with the people involved and try to get to to find out what the misunderstanding is, what the problem really is, before you start going off, as we say in English, half-cocked. Steve Groover is saying he's lost a job. Isn't he allowed to be a little bit bitter? Yeah, but by the same token, here's a picture of he has what's called Team Happy. Tell us where this picture is from, Happy, because everybody looks happy in this.
Yeah, well, this was this picture of this last World Championship in Costa Brava, which finished in June this year. And these are...
Costa Brava in Spain?
Yes. And these are actually 2 sailors from my team, from Team Happy, that were actually involved in that protest in South Americas. And that they were also, of course, I was the most under attack. But unfortunately, people with malicious intents also attacked the kids very badly. They wanted to damage their reputation, and they were zero involved in anything. They followed my instructions at all times. I told them to move the boats here and to move the boats there while I do the work. And the boys definitely suffered from this. They really were not happy. But they had fantastic parents that understood the whole situation. Other parents will immediately turn around, like a lot did, like a lot of close parents that were working for me immediately turn around, while some others immediately that were not even that close gave me their support. So it's amazing to really see who is there for you in the tough moments. And these 2 kids in particular stay with me because a lot of other people just left the team because they didn't want to see, since all this media was going on and this thing in Scuttleback and in Sailing Anarchy was going all around the world. Some people just didn't want to have any link to me without not really knowing the whole story, and that's fine. That's their decision.
Yeah.
But these 2 parents decided that we continue. That they really knew all that was happening. They knew what were really the intentions. The intention was to unstabilize the team. It was 2 guys that had chances of going to World Championships. If you really ban those 2 guys or you unstabilize them, then maybe their kids will have options.
Okay, and when you say continue, as I understand it, rather than being the coach of the national team as decided by USODA, you have what's in effect a private team. You have what's it called? Team Happy Sailing. And you have
Yes.
parents coming to you, and you are coaching their kids at regattas, and you've got some of the very top kids in the country and beyond.
That's correct. It's a private team. A small group of sailors in different classes, in Optimist, in 29er, in ILCAS. We are doing a bit of WASP as well. A small group of parents, sailors that really would like that have high hopes in the sport, that are looking forward to do Olympic Games. They have their dreams in hopefully are achieving one day America's Cup spot, or even in the SailGP. So for me, that's the most important as a junior coach. As a junior coach, all the results and all the podium finishes and the medals are really secondary to the fact of what we can really teach the kids about passion for the sport, about how we can influence them in the right decisions, and about teaching them from early the goal setting and the discipline they need to be the best they can be.
Yeah,
So,
well, Nog Willis is on. I don't know Mr. Willis or Ms. Willis. I guess it's a Mr. I know this man more than anyone. He has 35 medals at Optimist Worlds and has taught not just sailing, but as a mentor to the kids. So that's pretty nice. And just to wrap up, I think on that comment, Fernando, your team, Happy Sailing, if a parent or kid or yacht club is interested in getting their kids involved with Team Happy Sailing, how do they do that? How do they contact you?
Well, they can contact me through Instagram, Team Happy Sailing. The page is there, and from there, if there is the kid is keen to and passionate for the sport, we can coach at any level, any level, whether it's junior, beginners, whether it's intermediate, whether it's advanced, whether it's elite, from junior to Olympics, we can cover everything.
Good. Well, thanks for all that. Julia, do you have anything to ask or add?
No, I'm impressed with his mentorship.
Mentorship. I am too.
It's fun. A lot of the comments of people, to be honest, I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are, these people that know these things, because I don't know their names.
That's good. Well, read more because it'll make you happy.
Yeah, and they will keep coming in. So thank you, Happy. Thank you, Fernando, a.k.a. Happy Alegre from Peru, originally, now living in the States, I guess most of the time. The coach, the team, the owner of Team Happy Sailing, and he's live via Skype from Miami. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And hasta la próxima.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Okay,
Thank
ciao
you.
for now. Ciao, ciao. If you're just joining us, that's a coach, not just an Optimist coach, but a coach of considerable repute in other classes, Olympic coaches, Olympic classes, and so on. Fernando Happy Alegre has been our guest here in show 654 for this 10th of October. Strange days, starting out with talk about the war and so on.
Yeah.
Ted Ryman just joining us. Alistair Murray, who's the president of Sailing Australia, as you all know, just seems like a neat guy. I'm sure as Ricky Stadel Seiler, that's a good German name too. Ricky Stadel, Grande Happy. Stingray saying bravo. And, again, it's nice to hear both sides of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like Happy made some mistakes. It sounds like he could have better articulated his case maybe to the jury. But
he didn't get
he also sounds, there's Julian Viciano. Did I get that right, Julian? Top Happy. Okay. Sounds like some fans. And again, maybe we will in due course have either the new president, Bill Stump, our good friend Julia.
Yep.
Stumpy come on. And the last time I saw Bill was not too long ago. He was here at the Optimist heavy weather regatta here at St. Francis Yacht Club. I think was the race officer. I think it was the PRO. So we'll get Stumpy on, or Beth Danilek or somebody. But obviously, it's always better to talk these things out and sort them out and not resort to other issues. And again, I just want to emphasize, as you know, these headlines about cheating, whether it's him or the USA team or the sailors, was just way over the top. Simply not. And the media got out, some of the media, not us, got out front of what was the real situation. Mm-hmm. Okay, speaking of coaches, let's get to our regular Coaches Corner feature with John Emmett. The Coach's Corner, Super Fozy John, checking in with a report and then with an interview. I think you're going to love both.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. You join me once again at Castle Cove. I'm here on the balcony, and beautiful place to sail, and I think really important to enjoy the social things. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. But the thing I notice now with recording these pieces to camera, I always try and look for the golden hour and that nice low sun, but it's coming sooner and sooner, or maybe that's earlier and earlier. I'm sure Julia will tell me. But that means winter is coming. So Game of Thrones fans will be familiar with that. And you've got the October time for many countries where the clocks change. I know Tom's a huge fan of that, but it does mean that winter training section is coming now. So in the UK, I said we've got a few more domestic events to go, but this is really the beginning of the end of the domestic season. So we talked a little bit about good training methods, and with Coaching Corner, I'm going to try and really narrow down and give some top tips in a very specific area. But this idea of being consistent is very important. The best example I've probably said too often is the gym work that you need to go continuously, but the sailing, and to keep sailing through the winter, it's really important. And some clubs in the UK will actually stop around Christmas time and not open again until April. So you need to have that plan. Now there is a financial element. Sometimes you need to be looking at you know, if you're traveling, it's going to cost more to go away from home. But also you have the Finnish saying that there's no such thing as bad weather, there's bad clothes. And most places, if you really want to go out sailing, you can. You just have to wear the correct clothing. And training, rather than racing, it's easier to do in more extreme conditions, because training you can just go out, do it, and you don't have that hanging around that you do in a real race scenario when potentially you get too hot. So thinking about Japan here and the last Olympics, or too cold in terms of winter training. So the only thing I would say to coaches, I'm a big fan when it's cold of a one session day in terms of on the water, because my heart is still there as a sailor, and it's really hard to go out twice in a day. And we talked about discipline, but you know, it's important to work hard but do it in a fun way. But that discipline to keep sailing through the winter is very important. I said the fitness element, you've got that, you know, boat specific fitness. Wherever boat you sail, there's specific actions you don't do in everyday life, but also to keep your boat handling sharp and to keep the boat speed there, because most of these things, it takes a lot longer and a lot more effort to get to a high level than it does just to maintain that level. I did some stuff recently with the British sailing team. I said I'm expecting them to have an announcement soon about their team, but I'm really impressed with just how much their fitness and everything has moved on. I think just, you know, as fit as any other sport, and that continuous progress makes it very hard to catch. And they're planning their trips abroad, and you know, I guess the people who are on slightly more funding may be able to go slightly further away, but just to consistently keep training and to sail for, you know, 12 months a year. Within that, of course, you have micro breaks, and a good example would be the Christmas holidays. But yes, to any Fosie who's thinking about packing their boat up for the winter, I would advise you not to. Sailing is fun, and it can be a year-round sport for most of us. So see you on the water.
Good thoughts. And of course, if Buddy Melgus, who grew up in Wisconsin, and okay, you know, Dennis Conner had the advantage of being in SoCal, where it was year-round sailing easily, and Buddy would have to tow the boat down to Florida or somewhere to sail in the wintertime. But look at the Great Dane.
Mhm.
Look at Paul Elstrom. He sailed, trained year-round in Denmark, and you know, the water didn't freeze because it was salt water, whereas up in Wisconsin the water freezes because it's fresh water, like at our little home lake in Michigan. Thanks, John. Always interesting perspective. And now you recognize that flag? We talked about it.
Yeah, but
Here's the clue. We talked about it. PNG.
oh, yeah,
That's
for
Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, right.
PNG is the Olympic code, and that's the green end of that Indonesian island.
It's such
And-
a great flag. I think I'd remember it.
And, you know, that is the Southern Cross, like Australia's Southern Cross.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but PNG, Emmett, everybody's getting a nice piece, John Emmett Gordon Smith is saying. And it was indeed. Papua New Guinea is first participated at the Olympic Games only in 1976 and has sent athletes to compete in every Summer Olympic Games since then, except when the nation participated in the American-led boycott in 1980. The nation has never won a medal and has never participated in the Winter Olympic Games, but maybe there will be a sailing medal sometime in their future, maybe not in Marseille, but at the Emerging Nations Program, which World Sailing funds, and part of that is to get coaches going. And there's been a coach from PNG there in Weymouth. John's as part of this program that's been going on at the Bart Simpson Center. Their Castle Cove Sailing Club and in Weymouth. Have a look at this interview John did with this very cool lady.
Well, welcome to sunny Weymouth. There's always lots of interesting things going on here, and over this winter we have a scholarship program. So can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background?
Okay, my name is Roslyn Oma. I'm from Papua New Guinea. I'm currently coaching now, so I'm here for the Well Sailing Training Scholarship for Coaches, where we're doing a lot of technical stuff, including levels 1, 2, and 3 for coaching. And I was a former sailor myself, and hopefully I can breed the next future sailors for Papua New Guinea.
Well, not just a past sailor, an Olympian. You went to the last Olympic Games. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and also what made you want to move into coaching.
So when I was sailing back home in Papua New Guinea, very fortunately I did make the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. So I am an Olympian proudly. And at the time that I competed at the Tokyo Games, there was no one sailing after us. And so I decided to get into the coaching role. So I switched straight from athlete to now coaching, all based from experience. So here learning as much as I can to go back and coach to have a future Olympian. Yeah.
To bring the love to sports. How for Papua New Guinea, how did your Olympic qualification work? And is somebody going for that spot for 2024?
Unfortunately, not for 2024. I only started coaching immediately after the Tokyo Games. So all my kids only just started sailing. So in the last 2 years. So 2024 Games is quite close. And for me, coming up to qualify for the Tokyo Games, we really never had a set pathway where I could follow. And that's only something that I'm learning now to take back home and implement. But and I'm very happy to do that and fortunate. But we're definitely looking forward to future Olympic Games. That's something that I can utilize this scholarship program to go back home and implement and definitely get more sailors involved.
So I mean, maybe it's more targeting Brisbane for what you're saying. But tell us about the course. I mean, it's not 1 or 2 days. You're here in Weymouth more than I am at the moment.
Yeah. So we're here for a 7-week. It's a 7-week program. It's a World Sailing Scholarship program. That's an annual program for many countries like mine, who are classified as the Imaginations. So I'm very fortunate to be here. It's a 7-week program. So in the 7 weeks, we go through all formats of coaching. As I said, levels 1, 2, 3, technical courses, and we learn different classes or events of sailing. So which classes that we can adapt to and go back home and coach.
Well, welcome to windy Weymouth. You can probably say this is why we have the Weymouth Speed Week this time of year. We have these great conditions. Love Top, something very close to my heart. Tell us who's delivering the course for you here.
So World Sailing is obviously running the program for us, but we're with the Andrew Simpson Center, and Butts Bash is where it comes from. So from the ASC Center, and we've been very fortunate to be in this place.
I'm glad you say that. I live here.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, it's been perfect. The weather has been lovely. As long as it doesn't get too cold, it's perfect. Coming from a sunny country, it's been great. Yeah, perfect conditions. The Andrew Simpson Center has been really nice to us. We've got really nice boats to sail.
And what have you enjoyed most about being here? What part of the course?
Learning as much from coaching. Like I said, my coaching now is all from being a sailor, so mostly from experience. So here to learn the right ways to coach, and so they say it's easy to coach good tactics than it is to remove bad habits. So yeah.
I was about to say, don't say coaching's too easy. You make us all look bad. But thanks ever so much for your time. Finally, what would you say to other people in your position thinking about joining the program next year?
Go for it. I initially was writing to World Sailing for a really long time, trying to get myself here. I knew these opportunities were out there. I just didn't know how to get in here. So ask as many questions as you can. And there's not only the scholarship, there's many other avenues that you can utilize and use World Sailing and other areas to learn and grow in this position. And I'm really fortunate that I got to be here to do it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we're very pleased to have you, and best of luck for the future.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Yeah.
You see Stingray's comment. I think he wins the comments on that one. James enjoyed what'd you enjoy the most? English food. There's nothing wrong with British food or German food, is there? Wow, Gordon Smith says she is building the whole PNG Olympic program from the ground up. Impressive. And Ted Ryman's got some nice comments, but Stingray said, where's his comment? She has such great vibes. You agree with that?
Yeah.
I do too. Okay, thanks everybody for joining us on this show number 654, about an hour and 36 minutes in. We got a Bravo Zulu. Already did one Bravo Zulu at the top of the show. I see David Price has signed on. Pricey, who was in Bermuda, with his wife Christiane and watching their son sail, got himself into the semis. And we did a nice little bit about that Gold Cup at the top of the show. So, David, if you're looking for that, go back and have a look. We did that right at the top of the show, thanking, of course, James Pleasance for coming on along with the winner.
Yes.
The winner from Sweden, Yanni Berntsen. And now we're going to Italy for this regatta that happens every October. It happened this past, well, it's a week-long festival, but the sailing actually took place on the 8th. This race that they call the largest regatta in the world, 1,700 plus, almost 1,800 boats off Trieste. They start off the marina there, and they go up the coast, and then they go out to sea, and then they turn around and carry on into back back along the coast, I should say, and then into the finish. So that's always kind of a cool little spot. And now you look here at the number, the density. Look at that, Julia.
That's incredible.
Isn't that pretty amazing?
Yes. And
there it is. Amazing density of the boats. And the big boats sort of break free, and one of them ends up winning usually. 1773, nearly 1,800 entries, some 1,100 of which actually finished. Light air regatta, what they call the largest regatta in the world. And here's their press release that came out in the last day or so. There were 1,773 participants at the start, and over 1,100 at the finish line of the 55th edition of Trieste's Barcolana, presented by Generali, the big insurance guy. That's an insurance company, which was won. Some of this lost in translation, by Furio Benuzzi's 100-footer Arca SGR with his 16-year-old daughter. We'll show you a picture of her in a minute. Marta as co-helmsman. There was no wind in Trieste before the start. The Gulf allows 2 knots from the east, but when the cannon fired at 10:30, the boats are basically motionless, which is not unusual. So it goes on. The big boats take 20 minutes to break clear from the pack, and on it goes down to listing some of those boats, including the 100-footer that won. It is, as I said, it's a bit of a festival that goes on really all week in the marina there at Trieste. I've not been, but it's everybody who has been says we got to go there sometime, and it's just fabulous.
A lot of Prosecco there.
Prosecco. You're not a big champagne person, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I can't afford the ones I like all the time, so
Is Trieste near Genoa? No, Trieste is over on the Adriatic, right? So imagine shouting at the bar. Here's the boat that won, the 100-footer. Trieste is beautiful. Graham Sweeney is agreeing. I've been to Trieste. It's just I haven't been there during the Barcolana in October. There's the 100-footer, Arca SGR. I think Arca is in caps normally, and they won the Barcolana, the 55th edition. So bravo Zulu to them. And here is the proud papa. I guess that's him on the right. At least that's what I gathered from the press release. And Marta, who's age 16, holding the trophy, was the co-helm. Apparently a hell of a good sailor in her own right. And bravo Zulu to them and to everybody involved. Andrew Pindar would even struggle to cover that, Bart. What a great event. What a great sport. We have such a fabulous sport. I don't know what's going on now with Jeddah, because the gentleman has put this event in December in Jeddah. And now not just New York Yacht Club are saying we should not go, but one hears that all the teams are saying, forget about it. We don't want to go to Saudi Arabia, given what's going on over there. This is not going to end well, and it's not going to end anytime soon. It looked like the Saudis were kind of cozying up to the Israelis, and maybe there was going to be a rapprochement, sorry for my French, between the Israelis and the Saudis, and maybe therefore other Arab nations in the Middle East. But now with this going on, and maybe the Saudis starting to, especially after this invasion by Israel not that I blame them, of Gaza. Who knows how this is all going to play out? But if the gentleman continues to try to run a regatta in December in Jeddah, I think he's really, really, truly lost the plot. One hears, too, that the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron is putting quiet pressure on him to, and it's, it's their regatta. This is their event, and Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron has basically thrown their hands in the air and turned it over to Mr. Dalton. And we'll see how that all pans out in the next days and weeks. Sad state of affairs. Here is a video that New York Yacht Club published this morning.
It seems that way, but at the same time, yeah, I think it was a pretty even split today on starboard, upwind and downwind. So, yeah, it's I think downwind for sure that America might have had a little edge today on starboard. I don't think there's any conclusions. One's quite a bit bigger and one's quite a bit smaller, so they obviously have a crossover. At certain times, like the bigger foil will beat the smaller foil, but it's how much distance it can get in that lighter air, and then vice versa the other way. The small foil number 2 comes through pretty well when it gets windy. But yeah, like we've seen, it's obviously there's differences in the foils, but being able to sail around a boat, if a boat gets ahead of you on a tight racetrack with boundaries, is another story.
Okay, so there's a black box there at the end of that video. But one also hears that New York, when they have training conditions, and every time they have decent sailing conditions, out comes another video from ACE saying, oh, the conditions are perfect here in Barcelona, as they were yesterday, I think, when that was shot. And Team New Zealand also had a great training day. And that video, I'm not going to play, but these spy videos are just too much. I'd rather get Richard Gladwell on here and some others who really know what's going on to explain it to all of us.
That would be good.
Wouldn't that be good? I agree. That gets us to the last leg, and I have a video from Rolex for the upcoming Middle Sea race in Malta, and that's a few weeks away. I'll run that probably on Friday, but we're looking forward to that event. We're also looking forward to Sail GP coming up here. But in the meantime, we're going to do a wrap on La Voile in Saint-Tropez, courtesy of our good friend Gilles Martin Raget. We've run a couple of his vids here in the last 2 or 3 shows, but just it's a little longer. We normally run 4 minutes and change, but just feast your eyes on this fabulous event. is right.
Yeah.
Julia, you were saying when we were looking at those overheads.
Oh yeah, how great it would be to be there.
There's more. Credits. But you were saying when we were watching those nice overhead shots of the classics, just how nice it would be
Yeah.
to
Be there.
exactly. Stunning footage, Pedro for the sailing makes you want to go sailing. John Lambert's Van Buren saying the best way to wrap up our Mediterranean season, did 25 or more and hope to do another 25 plus.
Oh, wonderful.
I love this. This is a nice way to do the prize announcements, to do it actually on a video like this, roll the credits.
Yeah.
This takes a lot of time to produce this video, so bravo Zulu to Gilles Martin Raget. This is not a Corey, this is a GMR and his mates that produced this. People having fun, people at La Voile, and bravo Zulu to all involved, including and especially 6G. There they are. They have to take the G out of Raget, but that's how they get to those that group.
Yeah.
Bravo Zulu. Fantastic stuff, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm not much of a joking mood, Julia, so when we get here to the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Eric Manero, who does fabulous shooting himself, photos and videos, stunning footage. I'm drooling, Rick said. Stunning footage, we already said that. Superb video. Yeah, exactly. Nice comments. Gordon Smith is saying, Tom Morse, a.k.a. Mozzie Sales. I watched this video, and I've talked to a couple of designers who, frankly, thought it was a little clickbaity, and we'll get Tom on here at some point. I don't know him. I've talked to him by email, and John Emmett has put us in touch, I think. I think it was John. It may have been one or two others of you, but we'll get Tom. He's doing interesting stuff on his Mozzie Sales YouTube channel, regardless of whether that latest video was a little clickbaity or not, but we shall see. We shall see what they think as we get to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And as I said, I'm not really in a big joking mood today, but we do have one follow-up from our show on Friday, Tuesday. It was Friday, on Friday. And that was what this boat is. And somebody on another sailing Facebook page put our show up there and said, look at this, they talked about our boat. And I still couldn't quite figure out what type of boat this is, what the name is. I was hoping one of you caught it, because it's Ed sent this in, Ed Worley, but what actually kind of boat this is. And while I'm asking, again, this was a homework assignment from last Friday, John Van Buren is saying 4,000 sailors, 25,000 visitors per day, 150 press accreditations, and waiting lists for more. He's talking about La Voile. It was the designer who commented. Graham Sweeney, I think, sent them this link from our show Friday. It was the designer. It's a Voila 14. Graham, thank you. And you called it some kind of a fishing punt or something, Graham, didn't you? The designer commented about our show, and it's a Voila, I guess you pronounce it, a Voila 14. What do you think of that, Julia? Double ender. Look at the thing comes to a pointy end here in the back, and again up here on the bow.
Can't be all bad.
So cool stuff. A duck punt. Was it Bannero who called it that? Double ender fender bender. It looks painful to hike. I like wide decks like an elk. And if you've ever, we'll get John over here and get him to sail, Julia, on a Thistle. There's a boat that's not a lot of fun to hike on.
I don't know.
A Thistle, 16, 17-foot boat with not much of a deck, just a narrow rail about maybe that wide.
I've never been on a 16 or 17 foot.
Oh, well, you're smarter than most of us. Okay, so that is the Voila. Is that what it's called? A Voila 14. Thank you for that, Graham Sweeney. Voila. Here's a funny one. This was sent to me by, again, there's several of these Facebook groups now that are quite cool.
Yeah.
And somebody obviously did a Photoshop of ETNZ's, one of their boats. Maybe they're 75.
Mm.
And this was submitted as a caption contest. A caption contest. And one of you said it may have been Ed. In fact, I don't remember. But several of you sent this in, and somebody said, "Where does sailing end and flying begin?" How high do you have to get before it's no longer sailing? That's the question. I don't know what you all think of that, but
you got to think about that.
You got to think about that. That's Julia. That's about. I just don't have much of a sense of humor today with what's going on in the Middle East.
Right.
We hope it's not affecting too many of your friends and family, and if it is, obviously our thoughts are with everybody on both sides of that conflict. The citizens in both the Gaza and Strip and in Israel, just unbelievable what the leaders can do to others. And I don't blame the Israelis one bit for retaliating, but it's the same old cycle of stupidity and then retaliation, bringing more retaliation. Okay, enough. The finish line, we are there. Julia, your witness.
This is a good one. Don't forget to like, follow, and share. And some websites say subscribe. And that just make sure you always get notification of our shows.
Yeah, comments welcome to even in replay. And by the way, Steve Gruber saying, John, and maybe you, Julia, are welcome to come on his thistle anytime. We sailed thistles a lot as kids.
No.
Voila, like, viola.
Viola.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Gordon Smith. Viola like the instrument. Yeah, Thank you. Okay, so it's a viola 14. Holy cow. There's Ken Saban checking in from Toledo, some thistles in Toledo. Flying high, you know how I feel? I'm just saying, there goes ETNZ cheating again. Oh, Stingray. Thanks for another great show. You kids, parents at any sports event. Yeah, kids, parents. Pedro Foiling Sailor sharing the sadness that we all feel, I'm sure. Typical Italians having high heels on their boat. Well, that's not the Italians. That's the ETNZ. That's not the Italians. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Gordon Smith is saying, don't let the bastards ruin the world. Mary Jude in Philly, the city of brotherly love.
Yes.
And maybe sisterly love too, right?
Everybody love.
Graham Sweeney says, I'll supply the thistles. I don't think he means the 17-foot yacht. I think he means the thistles, and we'll watch you all trying to sail them. Please support us. I'm going to stick this at the top of the show from now on. Become a patron via Patreon, patreon.com/join/sailing illustrated, and give us a few bucks a month to help keep us on the air for this show, which is viewer-supported media. And we also appreciate all these folks who give us, speaking of viewer-supported media, who let us use their images, videos, and audio for today's and all of our shows.
Yes.
See a lot of repeats on there. We have another great guest lined up on Friday. We told you about him last Friday, but he's coming on. I talked to him texted with him just before we went to air today. He said, are we really doing this? I said, yes, Robbie, we're really doing this. Robbie King, who was at Caltech doing his he's a Brit.
Oh, that's right.
Very bright kid. Great sailor. He sailed in the Governor's Cup last year. This was when we had him on the road to the Governor's Cup last year, 2022. Didn't sail Gov Cup this year, but he is getting his PhD in
quantum
computing and artificial intelligence. We'll see if we can relate that to sailing, or if my little brain can get wrap itself around that. No doubt we can. If I can't, Julia, the Stanfordite.
I'm almost giving up. There was an interview over the weekend with the man who's considered the godfather of AI. And
on 60 Minutes.
On 60
Sunday
Minutes.
night. Yeah. Did you watch that?
Yeah.
And he's scared to death.
I was going to, and the final question is, what are you afraid of? That'll take us over.
Yeah.
You're kidding. He says,
well, and if he and Elon Musk and a bunch of these other guys, I'd like to get Ellis. I wonder if Larry Ellison would come on here and talk about AI and about sailing and about, I wonder, maybe I'll reach out to Larry and see. You never know. You reach out, the only thing you can do is say no, right?
Right.
Okay, Robbie King, Friday, talking about AI, talking about quantum computing and computational impacts on our beloved sport. Have a great rest of your week. Try not to get your brain too wrapped up in what this terrible situation is in the Middle East. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.